Good morning, Martin. How are you doing today? No, I said there wouldn't be any stream today, but truth be told, I lied. I don't know what to tell you. Nick, how's it going? Now, this is going to be a short one. I was going to make a video on it, and I was like, you know what would be even better than that? Me doing a live stream and not having to edit a video. So, that's what we're going to do. Okay, there's not going to be much show and tell here. We're just going to talk about some things. If you're a member of the Discord, you may have already seen this information, or maybe you didn't. Notice that lots of people don't have notifications turned on for my Discord. Shame. No, I get it. I'm in a crap ton of Discords, and there's some days where I'm just like, shut up. Vince, how's it going? And also I thought, maybe some people have questions. I can answer them. Maybe people have some ideas, things that I didn't think about. So there's always that. But I think the Trident is stabilized. Okay, it's Bow Hunter. How's it going? Does anybody else feel really old when they look at people born in 1998 and realize that they're almost 30 years old now? Doing all right, all things considered. Cannot complain. Well, I could, just nobody gives a damn. Wouldn't do any good anyway. Anywho, so the Voron Trident. Anybody that's been around knows that we've been fighting that thing since July. So, long story short, PTFE tube got wrapped around toolhead board, messed up the EBB 36, decided to upgrade it, put an H36 toolhead board on there from Physek with a beacon running USB. There's a lot of other stuff on there, and we're going to go through that. But that's where it all started. Fault, disconnect errors, random unload errors, timer too close errors, TMC errors, all the real fun ones. And I think we've got it sorted out, and we're going to go through what all has been done that I believe has contributed to it finally getting stabilized. So we'll start with the beginning and the stupid thing on my part, the random tool unloads and running the end macro. That was caused when we did that upgrade, adding the H36 toolhead board. We also added the stealth skirts onto it. Previously, there had been G-code buttons in the skirts. LTX, how's it going, man? I hope everybody had a great Thanksgiving, by the way. Hope everybody's having a good Black Friday. Hope you're finding some good deals out there. Getting that thing that you've been wanting at a price that you can now afford. Or just out there, you know, getting things to gift to those you love. In traffic. Yeah, probably a decent sized travel day today. So when we put the stealth skirts on, we no longer use the G-code buttons that were in the skirt. I love Florida too, man. But rather than completely remove them, they were ones I had built on custom PCBs. I removed the buttons, the physical, keyboard buttons that were soldered to it. But I left the PCB with the LED in there. And that in and of itself wasn't the issue. I did that to provide some backlighting to the skirts. Zybertech, man, how's it going? But the issue came in that they were using GPIO pins on the side of the Leviathan MCU. There's extra GPIO on the side. If you're going to add on to it, I think that GPIO is used now for the Leviathan expansion board. But the DuPont pins, the male DuPont pins that went into those GPIO ports on the side of that came loose. I didn't notice them because they were obscured because the Pi mounts right on top of the Leviathan. So I fought that issue for quite some time. A lot of people dedicated a lot of time in helping me figure that out. And I felt like a complete idiot and an ass for wasting people's time when turns out some pins were coming loose and making intermittent contact. And one of those pins, one of those G-code buttons, was a filament unload button and an e-stop button, which for some reason wasn't running an e-stop. It was causing it to run the print end macro. I still don't know why it was doing that. Anyway, if I had commented out the G-code button in the G-code button macros in my config, it wouldn't have been an issue until they shorted something out. Or if I had unplugged them and removed it would not have been an issue. Move on to another issue. This one I just recently tracked down. Still not entirely sure the reason for it, but one of the RGB light sticks inside the printer running klipper LED effects on the Pi. The LED, the first LED on the very first PCB was not working right. It was causing a LED update failure, and it was causing it every time it would try to cycle and send a new LED thing, which is, once every couple of seconds as your lights loop around. And that was causing a lot of load on the CPU on the Raspberry Pi, and was causing klipper shutdowns and other random issues. Doing away with the LEDs solved that issue, right? I tried replacing the NeoPixel on the board, but it still didn't fix it. So I do not know what's going on with that. Raj, how's it going, man? Hope you're having a good Friday over there. I know you guys don't do Thanksgiving. But B-Dog. So there's that order issue and the fix for that, right? I do now have the LEDs maybe on the tool head and on the box turtle itself working okay. So I just commented out the LEDs that were inside of the printer itself. We replaced the Raspberry Pi 4 with a Raspberry Pi 5. Trixie was having some issues. Downgraded to, what is it, Bookworm, I think. That solved those issues. Now we get on to some of the fun things. I knew that there was a power issue causing timer too close errors. And I tried many things throughout the process to get that fixed. What happens is everything you plug in the USB pulls some power from the Pi. If the voltage drops at the CPU cycles dip, causing timer too close errors, MCU disconnect errors, any error you can think of can be caused by the CPU just not having enough cycles. CPU usage goes, all that stuff. Yes. Yeah. Trixie, some people have it running, but it has some issues still. It has some incompatibility stuff. You might not run into it if you don't use that stuff. I don't know what all it is. I don't really care. I just care about getting it working. And they tell me it doesn't work, I'm not using it. Easy as that. Okay, so had an issue with the Klipper screen not connecting. Had to change one line of code for how it updates the screen. For some reason, it's not right when you install it through Kiao. Seems to work fine if you use the mainsail image on Raspberry Pi Imager, but when you install Klipper screen and stuff through Kiao, it doesn't seem to work. So you just gotta go in and change the config.txt file. Power. Turns out that the GPIO pins on a Raspberry Pi can only provide 3 amps. Pi 5 needs 5 amps. So does the Pi 4. So this might be, if you're suffering from timer too close errors, listen closely, okay? Also, your 5 volt, 25 watt power supply, the Meanwell, like basic Voron power supply for 5 volt, is only 5 amps at 5 volts and 25 watts. So it is completely maxed out with no overhead if you're using that power supply to provide 5 volt to LEDs or anything else. Okay, so I replaced the 25 watt power supply with a 100 watt 5 volt power supply. What timeout are you talking about? Because somebody else said that if you're talking about idle timeout, that has nothing to do with the timer too close error. but that's the only timeout that I'm aware about in your printer config. So if you're using the GPIO to run 5 volt to your Pi, there's 2 5-volt pins. You need to run 5 volts to both of the 5-volt pins on the GPIO and use 2 grounds, right? Also, the wires that most of these kits give you to provide power is too small of a gauge. You should be using 18 gauge, maybe 20 gauge. Okay? Half of the time, it's like 22 gauge wire that are giving you in some of these kits to run power to your Pi over GPIO. It's not enough. Switch them. Get new wires. Run 2 sets of them. Or, alternatively, use the USB-C. But make sure you're getting a USB-C cable that is rated to carry like 60 watts. Okay? Because most of your USB cables that you get are only rated up to like 15 watts of power. And as we said, minimum you need 25 watts. So, B-Dog, what idle timeout is, right? Let's say you hit pause on your printer. Right? Idle timeout is how long it waits at pause before it turns the bed, heater, and steppers off. So, like, I have my idle timeouts turned up. It can sit there for 50 days before it turns the heaters and steppers and everything off. Now, that's a risk. If you're going to go that route, make sure you run I think it's M84 on your print end macro to shut off your steppers when your print is done, right? You're shutting off your heaters, but make sure you also run the command to turn off your steppers. Otherwise, your steppers are going to sit there and be nice and toasty. So yeah, the idle timeout has nothing to do with the timer too close errors. Next, on a Raspberry Pi 4 and a Raspberry Pi 5, there's USB 3 and there's USB 2 ports. Okay, your USB 3 are blue. USB 2 cannot send and receive data at the same time. USB 3 and higher can. It can send data as well as receive data at the same time. Okay, now both of those USB 3 ports and both of those USB 2 ports, right? There's 2 USB controllers on a Raspberry Pi. One of them's a USB 2 USB controller, and that one controller controls both of those ports. And your one USB 3 controller controls both of the USB 3 ports. Then we're not talking about the same thing, because I'm talking about, I'll show you the line I'm talking about. So we go into my printer config. And we go down to idle timeout. Idle timeout, this is what I am talking about. That is how long it will sit there and hold before it goes, okay, the printer's been idle too long, and just time out and turns off everything. Okay, John Doe, yes and no. Okay, because I tried powered USB hubs and we still had an issue. Okay, and I got to go through that as well. Okay, so you want to make sure anything that's communicating both ways, like MCUs, is tied into your USB 3. All right, but even at that, there's still a bandwidth limit, right? How much data can it send and receive? That machine has a CAN bus network as well. Okay. Things like cameras pull a lot of voltage, as John Doe said. Okay. Now, you can run them off of a powered USB hub, right? But your USB hub is going to have a bandwidth limit of itself. And again, if it's plugged into USB 2, it can only send data and receive data. It can't do both at the same time, right? So if you've got something like a camera that's sending data to the Pi, and the Pi's receiving data, it can't send out anything, and packets start backing up, and then you get timer too close errors because it took too long for it to receive the signal it was expecting at a certain time. The time code on that packet doesn't match when it's expecting to receive it, and it's going to give you timer too close errors. So right now on that Trident, now not ideal, but what seems to be okay, and the only configuration I've had work so far is the H36 is plugged into one of the USB 3 ports. The beacon is plugged into the H36, right? So it can send and receive data simultaneously to the Pi now because it's on USB 3. The Leviathan is plugged in to USB 3 because it's going to be the next most intensive send and receive data instrument, right? The H36 is sending and receiving beacon information, thermistor information, all that good stuff, right? Next, that's my two USB 3 ports. My USB 2 ports, one of them has a powered USB hub, which is pulling power from the 100 watt 5 volt power supply. So it pulls 2 amps. Again, if you have a 25 watt power supply, you're way over what that power supply is able to provide. So you're going to have voltage dips on your Pi. All right. You're not doing yourself any more favor than just plugging it into the Pi because your power supply can't give it the power. So you need a bigger power supply. You need a bigger 5 volt power supply. Plugged into that powered USB hub is the USB camera. That is the only thing plugged into that powered USB hub, so that that camera is not pulling the voltage that it needs to run off of the Pi. Right? It's passing the data to the Pi, but it is not pulling power from the Pi. Also plugged into USB 2. Now this is not ideal, but like I said, is working, is the CAN bus U2C board. Plugged into the CAN bus U2C board is the AFC light on the box turtle. The Big Tree Tech Pi TFT 50 is plugged in over SPI or DSI, whichever it is, to the Raspberry Pi. That is all of the electronics and where they're plugged in at and how they are getting their power, and it seems to be working for now. I plan on Captain. Hold on one second. All right. Daisy, good morning. How's it going? Da Vinci, how's it going? Da Vinci, that's pretty cool. I'd like to see that macro. Anyway, so that's the power situation. Now, we were getting TMC GStat errors on the box turtle. That is a new issue, but it is now winter and it is dry. And running filament through those PTFE tubes causes static. Static transfers through your gears into your stepper motor, fires back off, and causes an issue. So the other day we went through and grounded all the stepper motors on the AFC, back to a ground pin on the AFC light. And I did that a long time ago on the H36. I didn't have that issue on the H36, but at that point I was throwing spaghetti at the wall to see what stuck. So TMC errors, check to make sure that your motors are grounded properly. Okay, yeah, displays the DSI. I couldn't remember which one was which. So the plan is to replace that Pi 5 with a mini PC, right? With way more USB 3 to allow me to also run the CAN bus network to be able to send and receive. Because right now I do run the risk of timer too close errors for package backups on the USB 2 controller. But that is everything that I have done since July to get this thing up and going. It would have MCU disconnect errors just sitting there. I think the longest I got was a day in between disconnect errors. And which MCU it was that disconnected? Normally it was the H36 or failure to communicate with the beacon. Every once in a while it would be the Leviathan. Every once in a while it would be the AFC. But more often than not, it was the H36 or the Leviathan or the beacon. That's why that went to USB 3. So I've done a lot of research. If anybody wants like links to any of the resources I use to dig up some of this data, just hit me up and I'll send you the links to my sources. Because as we make these machines more and more complicated and we add more and more MCUs and more and more things that are pulling power, it's going to become an even greater issue. You know, it's just what it is. That the Trident processes a lot of information. It's got a lot of sensors. It's got a lot of MCUs. It's running at high rates of speed, which, you know, requires fast data transfers. You know, it's sending and receiving a lot of data versus a printer that's, you know, running at 120 millimeters a second, you know. So all those things, I don't know. It's been a process of figuring out one thing that it could be, fixing that, figuring out another thing it could be, fixing that. And it's been a long process, and I hope that by me seeing it all the way through, rather than, you know, just taking the fast, easy way out on stuff, helps somebody. Because, like I said, as we keep adding stuff, more and more people are going to run into these issues. I don't know. I hope that it helps somebody. You know, if it saves one person 6 months of beating their head against the wall like I did, then great. You know. Yeah. So this all assumes that you're checking to make sure that your wires are good, that you've got continuity on everything. Like, nothing is more frustrating to me, right? So I, like most of you, probably the first thing you do when you turn it on and it doesn't work, go, oh crap, is my wiring right? Is one of my connections loose? And you go and check that before you even go bother asking somebody. And it is extremely frustrating to the point that it pisses you off when you go in and ask for help and they go, oh, it's your wiring. No, shithead, I've already checked that. I understand from their point of view as well why they might go that route. Like, a lot of people probably don't. You know, just like I missed connectors for G-code buttons that I thought I honestly thought I had unplugged those. I missed that. Right? But somebody saw them in my config and was asking about them. So I was like, well, shit, I'll just remove the buttons entirely to eliminate this issue, remove them from my config, and verify, right? So I understand why. But it's extremely frustrating when people do that, because it is a fairly common issue to have timer too close errors. Why, if we know that power is an issue, is not the first thing somebody tells you, hey, if you've got that hooked up over GPIO and you've only got one 5-volt and one ground set hooked up, you're not giving it enough power. Go fix that and see what happens. Check your wiring, but also do this. This is true. A lot of I've gotten some bad wires to start with, right? There is a lot better way to communicate. Morning, Havoc. You guys install Calico on your 2.4? Yeah, there's a lot of stuff in that, man. I haven't even begun to scratch the surface for what there is in there. Quite a bit. We ran through all the issues that I had on the Trident and what I've done to fix it, because I think it is in fact fixed. So this is the one stream that if you didn't watch, I'd say go back and watch. So far, so good. We've gone a week with no issues. I've managed to complete some prints. Nothing crazy long, but I've never, since July, I haven't gone more than 24 hours without something disconnecting or erroring out on that printer. And we've gone like a week now, so. Fingers crossed. There's still one issue that I know exists, and I don't know whether it'll come back and bite me in the butt or not. But the plan is, Captain said he was going to send me a mini PC, so we're going to deal with making sure that issue goes away too. So yeah. And just the amount of processing power that you need. Like, even with a Pi 5, it cruises at under 10% usage for memory and CPU usage. But when it starts doing filament changes and running everything all over the place, it can spike up into the 90s for CPU usage, right? Because it's just handling so much stuff. And that's with a Pi 5 4 gig. You know, if you're trying to do that on a, you know, Pi 3, it wouldn't. It's 4 gigabyte Pi 4. 4 gigabyte Pi 5. If you're having issues with your Ender Havoc, like I said, it would be might be really good to go back and start over from the beginning on this after the stream's over. Might have some answers or at least some directions and things to check. But yeah, so I'd like to see the community as a whole move into a direction of, hey, listen, no, you've probably already done this, but you might want to verify that this is right. Just double check it again. And also check this thing that might not be your fault, right? Say, hey, there might be this that's your fault, but also, what, you know, do this because it sounds like it's this problem, which isn't your fault. But also, just sanity check yourself one more time on this thing that you might have messed up or you might have missed, right? Give them both. Don't just go, oh, it's probably you fucked up. I don't like that. Right? In all my years in middle management, upper management can never figure out why my associates loved me so much. And it was because I didn't throw them under the bus. And even if I knew it was them that caused the issue, I still came at it giving the, you know, giving them the benefit of the doubt and then walking back into, oh, you accidentally hit this button. I'm going to check and make sure that the sensors are right on your conveyor, but oh, the sensors are right. Oh, look, you must have accidentally bumped the e-stop. Takes me 2 seconds to verify a sensor so that I don't immediately come out the gate telling you you're an idiot. I don't know. My pet peeve. Maybe I'm wrong. Anyway, guys, short stream. I just wanted to go over that because it was information that I wanted to share out. I wrote all this up on the Discord, but I wanted to make a video and I'm too lazy to edit it. Calico is not a replacement for Kiao. Calico is a forked version of Klipper that gives you much more control than Klipper does, right? So you can install Calico with Kiao. You've got to go through a couple steps. It's on Kiao's website or GitHub or whatever it is. If you type in Calico into Google and you go to their whatever, it'll walk you through how to switch. But yeah, it runs in place of Klipper. Yeah, it used to be called Danger Klipper. Brad, how is vacation going, sir? Yeah, so my advice as far as Calico goes is I would not jump to Calico until you know you need Calico. Okay? If you find yourself running into an issue where you're going, man, I really wish Klipper did X, and Klipper doesn't do X, then you might want to look at Calico. But if everything's working fine with Klipper, just stay with Klipper. You don't want to go back. I don't blame you, man. Nothing better than sitting on the beach looking out at the Gulf. No, I wouldn't say that, Death Cube. I'd just say that like I said, people that need Calico know they need Calico, right? There's something about Klipper that just is not doing what they need it to do, and then they go trying to find answers and a way to do it. And that's where Calico might help. Maybe, Brad, but I ran sensorless homing without Calico just fine. And from what I've looked at for the sensorless, it provides a lot more options, but it makes it a lot harder to set up. So, like, if you're doing sensorless homing and it works fine for you on Klipper, great. If it's not working like you need it to, then maybe Calico. It's just one of those things where you can really mess yourself up, right? I've heard that. So I've got Calico now running on a few machines. I've got other machines running Klipper. The machines that have Calico on it have it on there for a reason. except for the new switch wire I built. Oh no, I did need Calico for some of the sensorless homing stuff that was in Calico on the switch wire. That is right. Yeah, I haven't looked at the MPC stuff either. If I get to a point where I need it, I'll look into it. Or if I get to a point where I'm just bored, I'll look into it. But as long as it's working, and I've got other projects that are more pressing, it's going to take a back burner. Huh. I didn't know that Klipper didn't do different accels per axis. See, learn something. Every day. See, if a day goes by and you haven't learned something, it's a wasted day. And I learned something today. So thank you, DeskCube. I'm going to look into that. Because, yeah, Trident runs crazy, so. Maybe my entire understanding of input shaper is flawed. Because my understanding of it was that it was countering that in that range. But maybe I am wrong. Maybe that's how Calico works. Maybe I got information crossed. Anyway, I'll look into that. Guys, I hope you have a great Black Friday. I hope you find deals on all the things you want to get for yourself and for your loved ones. Yeah. If you're buying stuff on Amazon, you can always click one of my Amazon links in the description, and then I get affiliate money for everything you buy. Even if you're not buying the thing that you clicked the link for. Got an affiliate link for Polymaker as well. Outside of that, guys, I appreciate you oh so very much. We'll be back here tomorrow working on the NG build. I printed some new XY axis parts. Maybe better. I've still got my concerns. On how these are clamping the X-axis parts, but I don't know. Yeah. We'll look into it. When are we finishing the NG? I don't know. Hopefully over the next week. That's going to be what we're streaming starting tomorrow. I was kind of sick this week, and with the holidays and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, January. But next Friday is my spinal surgery. So things are kind of up in the air after that. If you missed it, Wednesday we brought back the Makers Making podcast. Go check that out. We were joined by Keela Prince, Armored 3D Printing, Captain Kern, Brad, Down Under Maker for a short period. Who else do we have on there? Maker Viking. So lots of folks. That's going to be, it was on Wednesday this week, but going forward, it's going to be on Fridays. Yeah, Brad, we'll work on whatever, man. We're just gonna have a good time. Yeah, it's gonna be a cool, fun maker hangout. Outside of, yeah. I mean, that's pretty much all I got, guys. I appreciate you coming and hanging out with me for an hour. I hope if you run into any of these problems that some of this information helps, or at least gives you something to try, because good Lord, is it frustrating to have a problem and not even have anything to try. Appreciate it, man. And then I guess we'll take it out to the billing department. If you'd like to support the channel and projects and all that sort of stuff, I do make sure that the funds that come into this channel from folks like you do go into this channel. They don't go into my pocket. They go into the projects to make and stuff to do more content for you guys. So thanks to all those that are members. If you'd like, consider becoming a member. There's YouTube memberships, there's Patreon memberships, there's Discord memberships. There's memberships all over the place. So many memberships. Then there's merch. Links in the description to my Fourth Wall store. Try to make some fun stuff, man. Thank you for the $1.99. Appreciate you, Thomas. Yeah, there's always super chats, gifted memberships, tips, all that stuff. Mike, thank you. I'll pass that along. She's over at her grandparents right now setting up for her party. That was her on the phone wanting me to talk to her while she blew up balloons. Told her I'd call her back after I got off here. Right now, funds, we need a new heater because, as you notice, I'm in a Carhartt in my garage. It's because it's cold out here because my heater's broken. So while you might go, that's not exactly content. It is content if I don't come out here because it's too cold to make anything. Anyway, have a great day, y'all. Appreciate y'all. Thank you so very much. Hope this helped. Anonymous with a $25 tip. Thank you very much. Thank you so much. I am so grateful to all you guys as a community. No joke. Like, I tried to make sure for the kid's birthday. All right, I'll make sure she gets it. Yeah. That was the whole point of Saturday's stream, right? Was to try to give back to you guys. I know I don't have, filament giveaways every day and all this other stuff. So I tried to, do something. This is a community printer, the NG's sitting right here. This is a community printer. This entire thing has been made possible by you guys. And I'm so infinitely appreciative of it. It was great building a community printer with members of the community while being able to give away and give back some stuff to the community and just have a fun day hanging out, just doing stupid stuff. So anyway, Thanks, guys. We'll see you back here tomorrow working on the NG. We're going to start getting some electronics in this thing. I don't think it'll take long to get this thing up and printing. Fully polished, probably not by Friday, but I would be amazed if I couldn't get it printing by Friday. Yeah. Again, January. I don't know what weekend, but if you're up to traveling to Ohio and you want to come hang out, send me a DM. Brad, Mike, Steven, Vince, you guys are already on the list. I'm going to give you guys, I'll DM you guys the information over as soon as I have it locked down for what day and date. But if anybody else is interested, shoot me a DM. Let me know. All right. Have a good one, guys. Take care. Enjoy the rest of the weekend. If you have off, hope you enjoy it with your families, friends, loved ones, cats, dogs, you know, whatever it may be. Those that are important to you, because you don't get them forever. Love y'all.